Season 15 of RPL Tier 2 has been quite close. And in fact, since this game cycle started, the last dominant win, and probably the only dominant one I can remember, is George Up Williams back in Imola last season. In fact, George Up Williams is not here tonight, so if the pack wasn't already close, it could be even closer tonight. George Up Williams has won 8 of the last 11 races. Ferrari with their drivers have won 2, and Mercedes with their driver from last season won 1. That was Red Fire Tiger for them, Mentoki and Penguin for Ferrari. First time winners, and we very well could see one tonight with the championship leader not in here racing. Obviously, the championship leader, George Up Williams, we've mentioned it time and time again. He has been on it. He may not always be the fastest driver, but he's the smartest one. It definitely makes it interesting not having that driver who, although he's close with other drivers, seems to always find a way to win. We're going to see who finds a way to win tonight in Hungary. Round 5 of the season, and better yet, maybe might be a little bit trickier to find a way to win on Friday the 13th. Not the first time we've raced on Friday the 13th in RPL Tier 2. It's also not the first time this game cycle we've raced on that specific type of day. Always known for bad luck, unusual things, and very interesting things. And we had that last season when we raced on Friday the 13th in Zandvoort. I'm Ryan Searles, your commentator, and alongside me tonight is RSF1 Invade. Invade, with George not here tonight, it's not going to open up the championship race like we would expect it to. But what we do expect, though, is the close racing we've had, just not that guy who always seems to find a way to win. And surely, maybe it gives an advantage to Polo God, who always seems to finish right behind George.
Yeah, I do agree. Drivers like Polo God and Penguin should be capitalising and closing on the gap to George with this race. And, yeah, I mean, George missing this race could also cost him the championship, saying he'll drop quite a lot of points if Polo or Penguin had a great race.
Yeah, if Penguin or Polo wins, that gap is down to 16 or 17, and if George does have a bad second half, it very well could change just like that. Now, I want to talk about, before we go over the championship standings, 2 things. Congratulations to our Tier 3 winner, Lero Fusion. A wet race then. We haven't had a wet race in Tier 2 since the end of Season 13. We very well could see one tonight because we saw one in Tier 1 at the circuit, and also Tier 3 yesterday. But one of the things I want to talk about is the last time we raced on Friday the 13th in Tier 2. Very notorious for some chaotic moments and chaotic races on this type of day. And it is known for quite bad moments. We had the race in Zandvoort last season, Invade, where Blonde won. He spun from the lead, and you had many different drivers contending for the victory. Polo was up there. He was P6 in a Haas. Gagi was contending for a podium in a V-Carb. Foles was contending for a podium in an Alpine. I mean, there's many things to look back at that race that kind of sets the tone for tonight. Although it's not the same circuit, it's the same type of day. And you know what I think? I know we probably shouldn't look too much into that type of day, but with what we saw in yesterday's race in Hungary in Tier 3, anything is possible. And plus, the race last week in Tier 2 just shows us that we could even get a first-time winner with it. Polo has yet to win. Jake Bandy's yet to win in this tier. He won his first RPL race last week. And speaking of droughts that we've had happen recently, Luke Grange has not won in over a year. Many good things can happen tonight, but I think in order for some of those things to happen, it might have to result in the chaos like we had in Zandvoort last season.
I do agree with you.
Obviously, you're a Ferrari team principal. You've got drivers to focus on as well, which I should probably note. But yeah, welcome along, Twitch chat. Good to have you guys. Give us some predictions ahead of tonight's event. Oh, have I lagged out of the lobby?
Yes, you have. I'll send you an invite back.
I will need an invite back. It just said voice chat suspended, and then I appeared with nobody. Interesting. Let's go over the championship standings since you mentioned it, Invade. Very vital point of the season because it is almost halfway. George ahead of Polo by 41 points. Penguin 1 point behind Polo. Mentoki 54 points back. Night Owl 59 points back. It definitely does seem like the Drivers' Championship is probably out of reach for most, but the Constructors' Championship is interesting, just like the Drivers' Championship for second place. McLaren last season, Invade, you probably remember this, they started off on the back foot quite a bit. Now they've been on the front foot, averaging about 30 points per race in each tier. McLaren 64 points ahead of Mercedes, Ferrari 10 points back of Mercedes, Red Bull 20 points back of Ferrari, and Williams the only team without a point. It may not be a race for the title itself, but there's always a battle somewhere, and that battle seems to be in second.
Yeah, I mean, the championship looking quite close for second at least. Mercedes, Ferrari, all very close. Red Bull not having the strongest of seasons so far. I mean, also Williams not to score. Obviously, there's none here tonight at the moment, so it doesn't look like they're going to be scoring tonight.
Now, I have a question for you. With George Alp Williams, the championship leader, not here, who does that give the advantage to? Luke Grange, potentially, in the Red Bull, of course, could very well take advantage. He qualified well last week in the V-Carb. Didn't have the best of races, I believe, so maybe that's something that could change this week. Polo God, he's always been just shy of George. I think the only race that was not the case was Bahrain, but that's because he bottled a potential victory. Torn Penguin got his first career win last week, and he's been on fire recently. The last 2 weeks, 2 front rows, first win and podium last week as well. Maybe FX7 Danny, one of your drivers as well, Invade. He needs a turnaround big time. Maybe he gets that tonight. Lennon hasn't won in 5 seasons, and we've been talking so much about droughts being broken. Maybe he's the right one to have it happen. He got his first race in of the season last week, and he was in contention for the victory as well.
I do believe Polo God benefits the most out of this. Yes, him and Penguin, from what I know, are quite close times-wise, but I do believe Polo God will benefit the most out of this, and I think will get his first win of the season and in Tier 2, just for the fact that his main championship rival and his teammate isn't here. But I also believe Jake Bandy could also benefit from this opportunity that he's getting, because I mean he can prove himself to be a decent Tier 2 driver, and teams can look at him maybe for next season.
Very, very fair point there as well. Jake Bandy, 3 top 5s in this tier, but never a podium sitter. Could very well happen tonight, especially considering the circumstances that he was in an Alpine yesterday and qualified quite well and raced quite well up until his spin once he pitted. Crazy race yesterday in Tier 3. Some historic notes there, which we'll mention a bit later on. Leon Miner on loan to Red Bull tonight. Wada reserving in the Haas. F1 Shorts reserving in the Sauber. Jake Bandy reserving in the McLaren. Alex Norris on loan to Aston. He'll have a qualifying ban because of it. Luke Grange in Red Bull. And Netsky in Alpine. Hyper in Haas. And Isha is joining us. I believe he's also on loan to Aston Martin. We have quite a bit of storylines ahead of tonight, and there's qualifying bans and race bans to mention. But those are your drivers on loan. Invade, I definitely have to wonder. We spoke about the Drivers' Championship, but last week in Austria, your driver Penguin got his first career win. I want to recap that just a little bit. It definitely was not going to be as likely to happen if it weren't for FX7 Danny playing the team game. He could have very easily given up a chance to, I wouldn't say hinder the other drivers, but at least help his own teammate and give him DRS and do what was right for the team. He could have easily not done that. He did that, and it resulted in Penguin's first win.
Obviously, Danny helping out Penguin last week to get the win was hugely beneficial to turn around our form, the Ferrari form, in the Tier 2 Championship. Obviously, I knew Danny would be upset because obviously he got the penalty and he'd love to be fighting for that win, but he did the right thing helping out his teammate, and he also maximised the top 5 finish anyway.
Alex Norris going to Tier 2 next season. We mentioned that last week. That's one of the headlines that we just were able to barely cover in time. I want to mention some of the Tier 3 drivers, whether they're racing from Tier 3 now or were previously Tier 3 ahead of tonight's race. Leon's in Red Bull. That's very interesting there. It's not the first time he's been on a top car this game cycle, but maybe he helps out Luke Grange when it comes to the pit stops cycling out. That is a very big possibility. Netsky, he finished quite well when he reserved in Tier 2 last season at Qatar, but it's because the pressure is off him. He's in an Alpine tonight. Hyper in the Haas. Would technically a Tier 3 driver as well, Tier 3 and Tier 2 in the Haas. Alex Norris and Aston Martin, F1 Shorts and Sauber. And Bandy was previously a Tier 2 driver, so I'm going to keep him out of this question I'm about to ask. Who stands out to you, Invade? I feel like, to me, because of some of the drivers having qualifying bans and everything else, F1 Shorts stands out to me, and so does Netsky. Here's why. Netsky, pressure off him. F1 Shorts knows it's inevitable for him to move up to Tier 2. Now with having the Ferrari contract in Tier 3, I feel like tonight is just a preview of what he could do in Tier 2 next season if he signed there.
I do agree with Shorts. Obviously, he's in the slowest car, but I believe he could maximise what that car can give. He's very strong around the track, and he's definitely proven to be a strong Tier 2 driver for next season. Obviously, this is a preview, like you did say, but I also believe, obviously, he's done a few races already this season, but Alex Norris, he's in a quicker car this time. Maybe we can see him fighting for a top 5, as each week he's had the Haas, he's now getting a quicker car in the Aston Martin. We can only see what happens there.
Absolutely. We are about to go into short qualifying, and if you're not aware of what we said before, George Williams, championship leader, not here tonight. That podium streak he had going of 11 straight ends, but McLaren can continue what he had going. That will be interesting to follow throughout the course of the event. So, let's go over our headlines, penalties, and changes. Mainly penalties because we have a ton of them. Some drivers hoping for rain, some of them not, but we'll get into that once we load in. Jordan, Titan Man, Titan Man's not in that list anymore. Jordan, Goldman, they have qualifying bans. Ardell has a qualifying ban. It was reduced from a race ban to just a qualifying ban. So quite a bit of penalties there tonight. That's without the loans. I think Alex Norris and Bobby might be the only two having qualifying bans due to being put on lineups late. So we have quite a few drivers not in here tonight, but or drivers here but having qualifying bans, or others not in here tonight who do still have to serve qualifying bans. It's gonna be an interesting qualifying session for those who don't but are in bad cars. You have Hyper, Woda, that I look at. Titan Man served his last week. F1 Shorts, even I would say Leon and Red Bull. Interesting to see where they are in comparison to those who, again, do not have qualifying bans, or those who do. Invade, wet race last night. We have a dry qualifying, but I'm interested to know, do we have a wet race? Apparently there is a wet race, and it's our first since season 13 finale.
That's quite interesting because obviously last night when it was a wet race, it spread out the field quite more than it was in the dry. Obviously there was a lot of issues last night with the lobby, but I feel the wet might spread out the field a bit more. Might also give the people in the slow cars an opportunity to, I don't know, get more points, get closer, outperform.
Absolutely agreed. Absolutely. There is a indication on when the rain will be now. Lennon giving us the information there. 30 minutes into the race. I think that's about similar to what it did yesterday. I'll tell you this from experience, Invade. I don't know. I don't remember what you did, but I feel like the hards starting on them didn't feel as good as drivers who went over to the hards, like yourself, throughout the race. I'm interested to see how this goes because of that.
I believe starting on the hards was the better choice, but obviously from what I've heard from you, you didn't enjoy starting on them. But
I wish I did.
Going mediums to hard, you lost so much time. I barely recovered. I was top 7 before I boxed. By the time the rain came down, I just got into P9, so I never recovered to anything higher because I decided to start on mediums instead of hards. So I think starting hards was definitely the right call.
The interesting thing I do find about the rain from last night is it switched over to the track being fully wet almost immediately. I'm interested to see if that's the case again tonight, just like Tier 3 last night, but I guess Hungary seems to be the circuit this game that we just get to produce wet racing quite a bit. We had it happen in Tier 3 yesterday, Tier 1 last season, and we're having it happen again tonight in Tier 2 on Friday the 13th for good measure. Season 13 Brazil, the finale of that season, was the last time this tier had a bit of rain, and we're spicing it up once again. F1 Shorts, our first car that will cross the line. What is the benchmark going to be from the Dutch driver? Also our youngest driver in the field as well. 14.8 next across the line. That is Luke Grange starting a lap. Actually, I believe he invalidated one just finishing. Jake Bandy, 14.3. Remember, he's a reserve, but still going to be alongside Polo God tonight, whose biggest rival is probably Torn Penguin, who just went to the top. 14-0 from Penguin. Leon invalidated. He's backing off. Lennon crossing the line. Third fastest. 4 drivers have clocked in times. Our next one should be Hyper. And I believe, if I'm correct, Invade, I think you might be able to clarify in this. He's not allowed to race in Tier 3 anymore. That's because he was too fast for the tier. It's good to see what he can do in this tier.
Yeah, from what I was told, Hyper is no longer allowed to do Tier 3 because he dropped down to a reserve role. If he stayed full-time, he would have been allowed to finish out the season. But because he's now a reserve, he's now here in Tier 2. And he's also learning no traction for this. So he's not fully confident for this race, but I'm sure he can do well.
AMS Bobby, he is either on loan or reserving. I don't remember which it is, but he has to serve a qualifying ban due to being put late in the lineups. Thank you for that. Titan Mana crossing the line now, and he'll go 6th fastest, just less than a 10th behind F1 Shorts. You know, usually we would not see this big backmarker battle that we're going to put our attention to tonight, but I'm actually interested to see what these two can do, because Invade, there's been a ton of talk of F1 Shorts, who should be Tier 2, and I understand that, rightfully so, and maybe tonight we get that argument further provided to us.
Yeah, I mean, Shorts is definitely very quick. I'd say 100% quick enough for Tier 2 quality pace wise. His race pace has improved every week, so definitely knocking on the door to be a Tier 2 driver.
And although Leon Miner just went slowest of them all, he is not that far off the next closest driver. At least that's something for him to look at ahead of tonight when it comes to the pace he has. He didn't really finish well yesterday in the Tier 3 race, 14th, but he did finish ahead of another driver. Him and I both were lapped. Netsky is on a lap. He's one of the drivers who raced in Tier 3's race last night. We'll go on board with him through Sector 1 only. And I want to talk about something when we get to Sector 2. Turn 2 here. Very easy to go wide in that corner. You want to be in 3rd gear. Now here, he puts on his overtake mid-corner during Turn 3. That's very interesting that he puts it on mid-corner to use it before going up the hill in Turn 4. 26.9. But Invade, I really think this section here is so tough on track limits, and it's going to get even tougher for the drivers tonight come the S section. We have Netsky in the S section right now, trying to find a way to not be obviously slowest of the drivers who have laps, but also to try and find a way to just give Alpine some sort of hope in the Constructors' Championship. Only 1 point. Their first point came last week. 2 more corners to navigate for Netsky. 3rd gear, and I think it's going to be 4th for the final corner. Let's find out. He's in 5th, dropping down to 4th now. DRS going to be applied. What's it going to be for Netsky? It will be 8th fastest. Polo is next.
He's gone purple in Sector 1 and 2.
Here you go. What's it going to be for Polo? He's never had a pole in F1 cars in Tier 2. It's going to be fastest by 2 milliseconds. It was this race back on the beginning of F1 2021. He got an opportunity alongside Reese Dainty in Hungary and capitalized. Got himself a podium, 3 seconds adrift from the win. But his last podium in his last pole in F1 cars comes back in Tier 1, beginning of F1 2021 in Spain. Be interesting to see what he could do tonight, Invade. That's for sure. 2,000s ahead of Penguin.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be close between them two tonight.
And we're going to see if Danny can put himself in the mix as well. I think he's got a bit of traffic. It's the Academy teammate in the Kick-Sauber. Not sure if it's F1 Shorts or Titan, but we'll find out when one of those two cross the line first.
It's Titan, man.
There you go. So Titan Man gonna have to get out of the way of his Academy teammate. Look at this. He's in the way. He might be an AI. Look at that. Just getting out of the way in time. I'm glad it didn't cost Danny too much. I didn't see him back off through that corner. It's so tough to send it. 6th gear. You don't want to clip the inside curb. You probably don't want to ride the outside curb. Track limits will nab you there. 2 more corners to go for the Ferrari driver, who may be frustrated about that one.
I'd understand the frustration because if that was me in a car I was ahead, especially if it was a Academy teammate, I'd be very frustrated myself.
Danny, 3rd fastest. He's ahead of Jake Bandy, so Ferrari seem to be there with both cars, whereas that's what McLaren is missing without George. Never mind. Jake Bandy, fastest, the first one to go into the 13s. Jake Bandy putting himself in the equation after becoming a Tier 3 winner just a few weeks ago. Luke Range next.
The multiple-time Tier 1 champion. He hasn't won in a while, but he's going to come to the line and fastest.
Oh my word. We have a qualifying session on our hands. Less than a 10th separating the top 4 spots. And I believe one of them is starting a lap. Penguin is about to. Woulda. I don't know if he just went 7th or a starting one, but we're running aboard with him for now. One of the other things I was going to mention, Invade, very interesting stuff developing throughout the week. Ardell signing his F2 reserve. Egg, this is the stuff here that I was going to get to. Stripped of admin and Tier 3 coordinator. Skither and Owen, admin now. And it'll be interesting to see what happens to Tier 3 after the season. Right now, Ding's the coordinator, but I know a lot of drivers weren't happy with the way things ended up last night, but that's because of the restart, not because of Ding.
I'm interested to see what happens as well, as both Saubers improved in the meantime. They're both 7th and 8th now. I do believe it was the right choice to get Egg's admin being removed. Obviously, Ding being there just as a replacement for now. We can only see what happens. Hopefully they get it started for next season, though.
Agreed. We'll have to see what they say there. In the meantime, Woulda crossing the line. Then we'll go to Penguin. Woulda does find time. He's 2 milliseconds away from Academy teammate Titan Man. A Sauber ahead of both Haas's. Actually, both Saubers ahead of both Haas's. Penguin is up 2/10 on the chart. And our most recent winner in Austria, our most recent pole sitter in Austria, would love to go for more. In fact, he wants to be the one to try and take the fight to McLaren and change the narrative that McLaren have been dominant this season. He would love to go 2 in a row. What's it going to be crossing the line for the Ferrari man from Bancia? And across the line, it is extending his time and going to pole once again. Almost 3/10 clear ahead of the pack.
That's an insane lap from Penguin.
You just gotta wonder, what can the others respond with? Polo up in the first sector only by 27 milliseconds. His ERS management doesn't look great for the middle sector, but that can change in no time. These curbs, I was told by Dom, you can ride them quite a bit. Yeah, that's a lie. You just saw Polo slide, and I also had that happen many times throughout the race last night. I'm interested to see who's going to be nabbed with track limits from that section. Timbed, in fact, cut that section last night once, and he was reported for it. Polo now, the next one to put himself in conversation for what could be pole position. 3/10 Invade. He's got a Haas approaching in that corner, but he gets out of the way. Is it going to be pole for Polo, or will Penguin hang on now becomes the question. One more corner to go for Polo. And it's fastest. It's fastest for Polo, 13.6. 15 milliseconds Invade the difference.
That is extremely close. Obviously, knowing the times of the two drivers, I kind of expected this, but not expected it to be this close.
Correction. Bosnia, not Bancia. My apologies. Hyper. I believe he's on a lap. Netsky definitely is. He finds time to go to the top 10. Nice from Netsky to crack the top 10. And I must say, Invade, you probably could chime in a bit on this. Do you feel like the expectations for him in Tier 3 are a bit too high, or is he not fulfilling them? Because he's not anywhere close to his teammate, and obviously Fusion would love to have him back to his Bahrain pace, he said. In Tier 3, that is.
Personally, I think Neski's underperforming. As he showed in Bahrain, he
Ooh.
definitely has the pace.
We have a spin. I just
he
have to
could
cut in
skeet
quickly.
with-
Hyper did it in the chicane. That's your Academy car, Invade. Not a good look there. Luckily, didn't get in the way of the Sauber. I started to cut in, but super unfortunate. Right in front of Netsky, by the way. You were saying?
I think Neski is underperforming. He was keeping pace with Alex Norris and Fusion in Bahrain round one. He's just not shown the same amount of pace as them two, so I think he's definitely underperforming.
But the thing is, though, if there's not so much pressure in Tier 2 here, surely at least that shows Fusion something if he does perform tonight in the Alpine. I mean, they need points desperately in this tier.
I do agree. Obviously, Fusion would love to have a rear gunner, saying Alex Norris, his championship rival, does have a rear gunner. Yeah, he's probably watching on, hoping Neski gets a bit of form from this Tier 2 race, gets a bit more confident, and hopefully can get up there and match him and help him.
I mean, it does help the fact that the track that Tier 3 is doing is the same as Tier 2, but that doesn't happen every single week. So obviously you can kind of review things and say, all right, what did I do wrong as a driver? What can I change for next week? But the two tracks are different next week. Tier 2 we go to Mexico, and Tier 2 we go to Canada. Tier 3 we go to Monza. So of course, only 6 days to prepare for that, but at the same time, I guess at least you can maybe apply it to the different tier and the full-time tier you're racing. I don't know. It's interesting as a driver to kind of look at and understand what you did wrong, despite the fact that you won't be at the same track next week, of course, in the same opposite tiers.
In that situation, if it's like a different track for Tier 3 and Tier 2, you'd probably, and obviously you're racing both of them, you probably use Tier 2 more as a confidence booster. Like, some drivers will need the confidence, such as Neski, if he's had a bad Tier 3 race. So, I mean, that also helps it being different tracks, showing that he can perform with little to no practice and on two different tracks.
If you can, I believe it's Isha who needs an invite to this session. He's the only driver not to have a lap on the board.
I'll
Meant to
send him
mention
an
for you
invite.
to add the drivers before the race, but that's on me. That's my apologies. Nonetheless, Titan Man, we're going to go right on board with him. We've not talked a lot about the onboard laps from the drivers, but you really want to maximize it, especially this session. He's going to panic and use ERS because of that, but I think reasonably so. He probably needs to find time, and he is. A 10th up. This man, we had a lot of high hopes for him in Red Bull last season. He probably should have won a race, but again, I think the big storyline for him in Invade is his head has got to him a little too much. But there is some races he's had some nice hope in. Bahrain, a bit cleaner. China would have been a bit cleaner until around the pit stop range, but his pace, once again, going 6th place ahead of a Mercedes, is definitely something to hang his head high on, regardless of the incidents he's been in.
Definitely, this is the first round of the season. He's not had a quali ban or a race ban. Obviously, he said to me before this race, Hungary is one of his stronger tracks, so hopefully he can perform around here tonight and prove everyone that he can be clean. And because everyone knows he's got the pace, he just needs to improve that racecraft.
It's just left the session again, so he will need an invite back once again, but also won't get a lap in at all.
He just joined.
F1 Shorts crossing the line and somehow finds a bit of time, but no places with it. He was disappointed. Oh, we have two drivers leaving the session. Isha was one of them.
Oh.
And no, he joined and then left immediately. That's what happened.
Yeah.
Anyway, give us your pole predictions, chat. We have our final flying laps on full display. Polo entering turn one.
Into a wall. Sorry to interrupt,
Who did?
but Hyper's just run into a wall.
Oh. And I think there's yellow flags for Netsky as well. Not out of fuel, but trying to get out of the way. Meanwhile, Penguin, Polo, crossing the first sector. 45 thousandths up from Polo. Luke Range, can he get to the line in time? Yes, he can. 20 seconds remaining. Give us your predictions for what you think could happen. Right now, Penguin is not making it happen in the first sector. These two very evenly split, but he invalidates. His lap time has been deleted. That is it for him, and trying to get pole position. Luke Grange on a lap, Jake Bandy on a lap, and up on the times. Danny coming through the middle sector. He is backed off, I believe, so that will be troubling for him. Polo down in the second sector. Interesting stuff developing there. Checkered flag is out. Who's going to get to the line and find time? Right now, our first one is a Kick Sauber. That's the Kick Sauber actually entering the pits. A Haas is spun, an Alpine is spun, but Polo does not find the time and misses out on extending pole. Next, I believe it's Jake Bandy or Danny. Danny backed off, Penguin backed off. Jake Bandy's next. Regardless of what the result is right now, it's looking to be a McLaren pole position, but will it be Jake Bandy for his first in Tier 2 or Polo? Jake Bandy goes to third. Timbed goes seventh. Lennon's down at ninth. Very shocking there. Wood ahead of Lennon. Luke Grange invalidated. Wood obviously backed off from the lap he just got off of, so that's going to mean for the first time since the beginning of F1 2021, 3 years, back in Tier 1, first time in Tier 2, Polo God is on pole position, and it's the night that his teammate, George Williams, is not here. Polo God in full display, and once again, Invade, another drought is broken.
Very nicely done for Polo God. I'd say Jake Bandy's the big surprise of the session. The Tier 3 driver who P3, and he's only like 2 tenths off Polo God, his teammate. So very impressive from Jake Bandy.
May I just give your driver some credit here? The Saubers and Woda as well. Right there in the fight with both Mercedes? Wow.
That is insane work from all of them. I mean, Titanman, P6, Woda, P8, and Shorts. All of them really actually like this track. P6, 8, and 10.
P6 from the Titan Man. Best of the rest, really. Good stuff from him. Obviously, would love to see him have a clean race. Timbed out-qualifying his teammate, Lennon. Polo God, the Irishman, not Owen, the Irishman, Polo God, on pole position for the first time in RPL Tier 2. It's the third time this season we've had a first-time pole sitter, and it's probably the best one Polo God could have had happen. The race that George is not here, proving himself in that McLaren, and on top, ahead of the pack by 15 milliseconds. Good stuff there. A 13.6 is the time that they had to beat. Jake Bandy in third. His teammate backing him up. Best qualifying for him in Tier 2. Good time to have it too. McLaren need it for the constructors. Luke Grange, Danny, that's the top 5. Titanman, Timbed, Woda, Lemon, and F1 Schwartz ran out of top 10. Outside this top 10, Leon Miner, slowest. Bobby, he had the qualifying band to serve. Isha had no lap, and Alex Norris, also down there as well, had the qualifying band to serve as well, but Polo is going to be leading the pack for the first time in a Turn 1 since Season 5, Tier 1, Round 2, Spain.
Just trying to get Isha back in, but they're not online at the moment, so I can't really invite them.
Understandably so. Understandably so there. So it's the first time for Polo since August 21st of 2021. In fact, that was actually, I believe, a week after the Tier 2 race. That was on Friday the 13th. 1,210 days. Congrats to Polo. Hope someone could put that in fun facts, because we're going to focus on what the strategies could be, considering the wet race we have upon us. We have no countdown yet, but it is medium hard. And that wet patch, to correct myself, is the second to last patch. Luke Grange is readied up, so that means the drivers can now ready up. Invade, what do we expect for Turn 1? We had a race here back in Season 11 or 10, I believe it was, where Strat Racer dive bombed down the inside, taking the lead from Hunted. We could see that happen again, or we could also see chaos erupt up in Turn 4 like we have had in the past. 10 seconds.
I think there's going to be quite a bit of chaos into Turn 1. more in the mid pack to lower pack. I think the top few will get away well.
The 5 red lights ahead of the drivers in round 5 of the season in Hungary. It was a quick one, but lights out, away we go. Wheel spin from the Ferrari, wheel spin from the Sauber. Lots of drivers in the midfield jockeying for position, but it looks to be protected from Polo God unless Penguin goes for a dive. He doesn't. Lots of contact for 3rd place in this race. Titan Man trying to shoot up the outside. Jake Bandy trying to protect, and Danny going for the move. 3rd place up for grabs in this race. Ferrari versus McLaren, not just for the lead, but for 3rd. Danny, Jake Bandy, they tag each other on both sides, and Bandy comes out worse. He's down in 9th. Contact for 4th. The Titan Man has had an astonishing start, but he'll lose out here up to turn 4. Hyper. Woulda. Positions there, but Polo had a big moment down at turn 5. He's losing the lead because of it. Penguin through and ahead.
I don't know if you saw this in turn 1, but Danny and Titan Man was inside of each other.
Yes, I did. And because of that, that put them really out of shape for turn 2. And you see what that does now for Danny. Up 2 places. Lennon up 5. Titan Man would have been up 2, but got overtaken by Lennon. Hyper up 5. And the big loser, to no surprise, Jake Bandy.
Hyper's had a really nice start. Up from P12 up into P7. Very, very well done.
Here's your tires, folks. Mediums for 4 drivers, hards for the rest of the field. A Sauber racing a Red Bull. We probably wouldn't have expected that to happen here in RPL Tier 2 Season 15, but it's Luke Range, the all-time winningest driver across all tiers, taking the advantage there, up to 5th now. Further back, I think everyone is staying put except for Alex Norris, trying to go on the inside of his teammate here for 13th, and doing so with ease. Remember, these two are not usually teammates at Aston Martin. They're both on loan. Leon Miner, down 3 seconds. He had a horrible start. 3 seconds back from the pack. What an absolute stinker for Leon. Very unfortunate.
On Alex Norris and Isha, they're actually academy teammates at the Ferrari Academy, just both on loan at Aston Martin.
There you go. I'm interested to see what happened to Polo there on lap 1, having that big moment in turn 5, but it allowed Penguin through. Both in the hards, both similar pace throughout this weekend so far, but it does look like Invade Polo has caught back up, so advantage to him. DRS is activated as well.
But behind Polo is Danny on those mediums. Danny will probably try and get through and try and get in between Penguin and Polo, so then there's a bit of a gap, and maybe either stretch the gap with them two or defend for Penguin.
This is the difference with having a rear gunner and not. Speaking of that rear gunner, that could have been there. Jake Bandy on the inside of Timbed, wheel to wheel at turn 1. Action not stopping throughout the midfield, and it's Jake Bandy around the outside, the long way around, prevailing ahead of the Mercedes driver. The Mercedes driver was thinking about making an attack back on the inside, but couldn't pull it off. Here's Woulda on the inside for turn 3. Doesn't usually work out here. There's contact between the pair of them, but they come out alive, luckily so. Now to turn 4, there's still contact. They keep it side by side there. I'm not sure that was a smart idea. Could have allowed F1 short to the inside. Luckily it didn't. Place contested there.
That was very scary. Going side by side that time doesn't usually end well for the drivers, but it did this time.
Polo trailing by 3/10. Isha out because he had lagged out of the session. That's our first driver done. So unfortunate. Such a stupid glitch to keep happening to the drivers. Very sad.
Just to point out, the top 6 has broken away from the rest of the field. Titan Man pulling the gap over Hyper.
That will be very vital for the rest of this race and who has a chance and who doesn't. Anyway, Penguin leading, Polo trailing, further behind. Was it Jake Bandy getting out of shape? Was it Hyper getting out of shape? I think it's Hyper who got out of shape.
And Jake Bandy and Wood have both got through in the last turn.
There you go. Both Haas drivers still trying to put a back attack on the McLaren. Sideways there, out of the corner, and Woulda loses control. It'll be Hyper taking advantage. Timbed says, hello, I want to do the same too. But these two teammates almost come together.
Alex Norris gets past Bobby.
Very tight action there up to turn 4. We're making contact again. More touching. Alex Norris doesn't want to back out here. Neither does Bobby. Alex Norris ahead and still staying ahead. But Bobby around the long way could pull it off. He gets squeezed out of the curb and cannot do that. Great action here wherever you look.
Very well defended. Now, Titan Man is also dropping back from the top 5 here.
But he's still pulling on Jake Bandy, who's broken away from the Haas drivers. Lennon has Luke Range all over the back of him. And I'm always going to wonder what happened there to Polo to lose lead at turn 5. But I'm also going to wonder, how does that affect the rest of this race? Because the Ferraris are both there. Both McLarens are not there. Lap 5, DRS enabled still. If you weren't with us before, by the way, we do have rain coming later on. So I just want to keep in mind. That's why I am saying DRS enabled still, as both Haas is traded around.
You feel like, oh, Bobby, you just get Bobby and Alex Norris to go into round 2.
And it's going to go to turn 2 now. The V-carb around the outside getting pinched here once again. Very tight action as we get to turn 3. Overtake button on use, but also a lot of contact on use. Bobby edging ahead, but Alex Norris, you saw him weaving in the background. Absolutely fuming.
I can imagine so. He got forced out and then there was a lot of contact.
It feels like whether it's turn 3 or turn 4 Invade, no one wants to back out. And no one seems to really care if they get a track limit penalty in that section due to the close action. They feel like they can get it appealed nonetheless.
In those situations, you can't always guarantee you're going to get an appeal, so you always have to back out sometimes.
Look at JTK in Tier 1 Singapore last season. It's the perfect example.
Timbed's looking real feisty behind Hyper here.
So we got a train for 8th, and we got a train for the lead. Will Polo God make an attack for the lead on Penguin? Doesn't look like it, but Penguin's still going defensive. Lennon also going defensive on Luke Range. Here's Polo getting nudged from the back of by Danny, so he's got Ferraris surrounding him. And it's interesting that's the case, Invade, because this is the Academy he raced with last season as we still have a battle brewing for 11th. Oh, crash!
Yeah.
Hyper's around! Right in front of the field! Everyone had to take evasive action, and somehow the ghosting system kind of saved everybody's race there. Hyper to last.
Very unfortunate for Hyper.
He was leading the train, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was leading the train. He was in P7 for a long time. He was like the first 4 laps or so.
Mediums for F1 Shorts, mediums for Lennon, mediums for Danny. I'm interested to see when they do pit to the hards, because you're going to want to pit here in the next few laps. The medium tires, not what everyone seems to like around this circuit at all from what I've heard.
Yeah, I used them yesterday and they was not very nice at all. But that might have just been because I had a horrible front wing on.
Anyway, Penguin using ERS to try and defend the race lead once again, but he's down below 40%. Polo having 90% to his advantage. No moves being made here. We have a move in the background, actually. Here's Luke Range diving up the inside, late on the brakes, trying to pull one off, but cannot do so. Now to turn 2. Both Ferrari and McLaren stay put in first and second, and that's F1 Shorts taking a trip to the pit lane. I'm not sure if he's repairing any wing or going to hards. He's going to hards. You know who's repairing wing? Hyper in the Haas.
Interesting enough, AMS Bobby also got past Nesky in the meanwhile of this, and he has now put a car between him and Alex Norris.
Lap 7 of this race, and there's still a ways to go. There's also ways to go until the rain hits. We do know we're going to have rain because that last patch shown on the driver's screen before you take control and you mess with your setup, you will notice that the last patch increases to very wet weather. Actually, in fact, at the end of the Tier 3 race yesterday, Mark had said to the drivers, Invade, if you remember, that it was enough for wet tires. So it could very well be right on the edge of that, and it could even be that way if we get the safety cars. We have a penalty handed out to Hyper, and Polo had a big moment there at the penultimate corner.
He did. He also has a much more much more ERS than Penguin does. So he could look at the move, but he won't. He'll stay behind. But he knows Penguin is quicker at this moment in time.
Lot of touching for 4th. Speaking of moves, there was a big one made. Luke Range ahead. Jake Bandy also gets the place behind, and Timbed also getting the upper edge on Woodha. So 3 different moves at the same exact corner. Turn 1 is quite the overtaking zone for these drivers.
I do agree. Turn 1 probably the best turn to overtake at. Either that or turn 2, which You'd probably see most of your overtakes done, obviously with the DRS on both of them as well.
You know, Ferrari first and third. I feel like last week it was they turned their season around. Invade their first pole with Penguin, and their first pole as a team since the season 13 opener in Bahrain, the first race of this game cycle in Tier 2. You had the win with Josh last season. You also had the win with Mintoki. But it definitely seems like both drivers are there. Danny, a 3-time podium sitter, also in this fight, but he still has to pit on these medium tires, and same with Lennon.
Look at the gap between Danny and Polo. It was flirting over the 1 second, and now Luke Grange is going to go past Danny, and he's going to get the overtake done, and he's going to try and stick in the DRS to the top two.
Mediums might be falling off because Luke Grange just overtook both drivers still out there on the medium compound tires. Hyper went to another pair of mediums, by the way, when he pitted as well. Luke Grange, a lot of race pace around here. Also, a multi-time winner on this circuit. Most recently, I can recall, back in Season 5 in Tier 1. Past Sector 1 from Luke as well. He is flying.
Luke Grange definitely seems to have the most pace out of everyone here. Definitely in that top few anyway, as he's now caught right back up behind Polo God, and he's stretching the gap.
Wow.
Surely this is the lap where Lennon and Danny box.
And even then, at that point, I don't think you're trying to undercut each other. You're just trying to get out of this whole mess you're in. Woulda, speaking of a mess, he's made a mess of the track limits. 9th place driver having his first track limit penalty. Alex Norris racing it out with Netsky. Both full-time Tier 3 drivers racing it out. And it's Alex Norris in that battle getting the advantage. He is ahead and through. But Penguin having not really the control when it comes to ERS. Polo, 73%. Penguin, 45 there. Definitely going to be a big thing to talk about tonight with Hyper now on the wall.
Even if Bobby does get past Woulda, who did pick up that penalty, Bobby's making quite good work, saying he had that quali ban. Obviously, we haven't seen Bobby since Abu Dhabi Tier 1 last season, when he was in the Aston Martin. So it's great to see him back.
It's great to see Luke Grange also in race winning contention once again. It feels like quite a while it's been, but we have still other drivers to focus on. Both medium runners yet to pit. Titan Man still having a decent day on the hards, up in 7th. You know, I feel like Sauber definitely has the advantage in terms of qualifying pace compared to their race pace. Their tire wear with their drivers always seems to affect them throughout whatever race it is, and especially with his qualifying effort in Invade, you wouldn't expect him to stay up there, but he definitely did for quite a bit.
Sorry, I just cut out. What was that?
All good. Polo, I think, getting PTSD now to Season 5 Tier 1 with Luke Grange battling him. It's a flashback to the past. A blast from the past, as they would say. Polo around the outside. Is he going for the move or is he not? That's a spin from Hyper. Another penalty to his name. 4th place up for grabs. Lennon ahead. And Polo, is he on the overtake now? Around the outside, he's looking to put his car and he cannot pull it off. Luke Grange also waiting in the background as well. That's Hyper with damage on the side of our screen.
For a moment.
Oh, you were saying?
On the exit of turn 1, there was 3 wide for a moment.
So, thrilling stuff throughout our whole entire field. 9th place seems to be the biggest fight right now, even though our lead has drivers even closer than that.
Yeah, Alex Norris did get past Woulda.
I think that's very vital in his chance for points with the Aston Martin team. These hards seem to be coming alive for drivers like Bobby, Alex Norris. Even you could argue Jake Bandy. He is not too far away from Danny. Now in DRS pursuit of the Ferrari. Still yet to pit as well. Very shocked that these guys are thugging it out on what is 10-lap mediums. Bobby is off, and Bobby has his chance of points probably done. He had a moment coming out of that section, and he is just out of it. Hyper, 10-second for speeding, but for our lead. It's up for grabs. Polo around the outside. Luke on the inside. 3 abreast. Polo got pinched there, and he actually was the one pinching Penguin. And Luke Grange threw on both for the lead. A blast from the past having Luke out in front of this race on lap 12.
That was a lovely move from Luke. made them both panic, go push. Obviously, Penguin in the middle. Polo's gone wide because he didn't know there was 3 wide, and Luke just capitalized.
Luke with a late lunge and pulling it off. The 3-time Tier 1 champion. A
Danny
winner
had a moment.
previously
Not Danny,
in
Penguin.
Tier 2. And yeah, that might cost him DRS. Look at this. 9/10 adrift now. Bobby, game over for him. Grange now after that move, just humiliating the 2 drivers behind him, almost pulling DRS from that. Quite a bit of panic on the Penguin and Polo because of Luke Grange. You didn't expect him to be in this fight, but he is here now, and he is fighting with all his might. Lennon, Danny, both yet to pit. I think one of them might come in. Both of them still staying out. Unbelievable.
I think Jake Bandy's going to get Danny here. He was really close through sector 2, and he's now really close still.
Polo having a girl on the outside of Penguin and pulls it off there. You were speaking about Bandy and Danny. Let's look at them.
He doesn't have the air estimate the overtake for it, though.
I think because of Polo actually going through on Penguin, it's going to keep both of them in DRS of Luke. That's very crucial for this race as well.
I do agree.
Hyper head of Bobby after his retirement. Hyper a lap down, obviously. Not the day he would have wanted. But I must say, after Luke Grange's move, that's definitely shuffled things out quite a bit interestingly for the rest of this race. Now, lap 13 this is. Polo, definitely a track limit warning for that. He went straight on over the curb. He knows what's at stake. You can't let your head get to you, and Luke Grange right now has the advantage, but will he when it comes to the pit stops, you know? And there's still more to go with the wet weather later on. Jake Bandy trying to look down the inside of Danny, and they are side by side at the third to last corner. Usually not an overtaking zone, but today it looks to be the case. Danny staying ahead. Jake Bandy still yet to pit, and I think this is very bold for them two to still stay out on the mediums, Danny and Lennon.
I do agree. I don't understand how they're actually doing it or why they're doing it. Maybe they're trying to stick in DRS. Jake Bandy's going to go for the move on Danny, actually. Danny's going to get the switch back, and Danny stays ahead. Or does he? Because Jake Bandy's now... Jake Bandy is now there.
Real. This contact model Invade, you know it, I know it, usually has cars glued to each other. I don't know how one of them did not end up in the grass. Great stuff there, and you know what it does with the 2 medium runners yet to pit? Titan Man, welcome to the fight.
I was just about to say that. I would have boxed by now if I was Lennon and Danny, but surely they probably know something I don't. Maybe the rain is closer than expected. Maybe not. We don't know. As Luke Grange has actually pulled the gap over Polo and Penguin.
I would definitely love some insight to how much until the rain. I know SV was saying he was watching the stream, but Polo checking the gap between him and the car behind him and the car in front. So, of course, he might be on the radio wondering when is this rain coming because he is losing time to Luke Grange and out of DRS pursuit there. Penguin finally has the ERS advantage and turns on the battery. Finally, one of the medium runners in the top 5 are in. It's Danny going first before Lennon. I don't know why they waited that long, but, you know, it costed Jake Bandy and put the advantage onto the Sauber.
Definitely. In this situation, when I started on the mediums yesterday, I boxed around lap 8, so they've obviously gone a lot longer. Maybe the rain's a bit longer. Maybe they're thinking they can catch up when everyone's on dying hard before the rain even comes.
1.0 now. I think Polo in certain sections of the circuit finds the time, but then Luke, once he notices that, he's able to get back to his old self and just pull away when needed. 9/10 that gap. 1 second that gap. It's just flirting back and forth with in DRS, out of DRS. It's definitely going to be a race of who has DRS by the time the rain comes, because once that rain is here, DRS will get disabled almost immediately. It took 2 laps for that to happen yesterday.
Polo was lagging a little bit.
Maybe a concern for the Irishman. Last lap, we saw Danny in. Will Lennon now come in as well? Was he looking to overcut Danny, excuse me? Yes, he is in to the pits, boxing for what's going to probably be the hard compound tires.
Now this
Titan Man.
really benefits Titan Man because obviously he's in DRS now, and I'm pretty sure he lost it before Jake caught the two medium runners.
But you've definitely got to think about this for the long-term perspective, as Penguin has a moment, and he has lost DRS to Polo. Penguin spun, and he has damaged air for the Ferrari, and that's vital for the race in the second place second place race in the championship.
That's really, really unfortunate for Penguin. He was looking very strong for a podium, but those chances have slimmed down now because of this damage on that spin.
I was just going to say, Invade, Japan last week with Tier 1, we had a wet qualifying, and it definitely came down to driver skill. Leo Lund second for Williams, not where that Williams should be. Titan Man now with the Sauber team, running 5th place, and could definitely be on for a podium now. Do you think that's possible when we get to the wet, that he could be on for the podium because he's stuck with Bandy, and also the other drivers on the mediums kind of put him in the advantage? Danny specifically, Lennon as well?
For Titan Man, I think we don't know his wet pace. I don't think we've seen him do a wet race before, so
He's not. You're right.
It'll be interesting to see what his pace is in comparison to a Jake Bandy who is fighting right now, who actually did wet race around this track literally yesterday. So it'll be interesting to see. But I'd say a podium's not out of the question, but it doesn't seem very realistic.
Lennon jumps Penguin out of the pits, and this is interesting that Penguin with that damage came out behind Lennon, and I don't think they even repaired his damage. Look at that, the right end plate is still off that car. Very unfortunate for Penguin, who might want to come to the pits once again. His day has gone from bad to even worse.
Yeah, they didn't select the yes on to repair his wing, so they didn't repair it, so this is very unfortunate.
F1 Shorts, who pitted a long time ago on those mediums, 2 seconds away from the next car, but also 9 seconds away from his academy teammate Penguin. 1.1 the gap between Luke and Polo, and I definitely find it interesting that Penguin went to mediums there. Hyper on softs as well. I believe that's Hyper's AI. It is, but with the rain coming, is Penguin going to mediums? Of course, when you had to pit, smart, because you want to make sure you at least change compounds in case the rain doesn't actually come, which it should, but just in case.
I know Penguin's not going to box now because he's going to stay out. Even with the damage, he's going to have to wait for the wet weather and then repair his wing, which hopefully he does select the yes thing and repairs his wing.
I wonder how close the rain is. I wonder who's watching that could tell us that. 9 people watching this event right now. 4/10 the gap between Lennon and Penguin, and Lennon just set the fastest lap moments ago. Netzi on the back of Woda. A battle brewing there for 7th, but remember, Woda has the track limit penalty. And also, I want to give this time to give credit to Alex Norris. Had that qualifying ban, right now running P5, and in pursuit of the Titan Man. He very well could dispatch him and find his way, potentially, in a podium fighting place for the first time in Tier 2.
Interesting enough, Jake Bandy has pulled a 2-second gap over the Titan Man as well, so Titan Man's going to be very vulnerable.
Polo and Luke, very similar ERS moments ago, but Polo used a lot of it down the main straight to try and put himself back in DRS range of the 3-time champion. Polo seems to find himself in this position quite a bit. He was a runner-up in the F2 championship back on F1 2019 and 2020, I believe. If I think it was just 2020. 2 times second, and it was to 2 Tier 1 champions, Luke Grange and Reese Dainty. And he's actually never won a Tier 2 race as well. 4 times a podium sitter under the Tier 2 format. 3 podiums, I believe, in RPL Tier 1. Not a winner. And under the F1.5 format, a podium sitter there. You're right, he is lagging quite a bit. I do notice that, but only ever won an F2 though. So you got to think, surely this man does not want to deal with being 2nd place again tonight.
Definitely in Polo's situation, he wants to capitalise the most, prove that he can be the #1 driver for McLaren. In other news, Danny, Lennon, and Penguin have all caught up to the back of Neski and Wooder.
I was just going to say, Danny's going to be frustrated staying behind Netsky here. He's going to go for the move. Netsky protecting. Here's Danny moving from left to right, jockeying around, and now bumping the back of the Alpine out of the way. Here's a pit stop being made. It's from Wooda. He thought he could not make it to the end here. I will say, what I did notice yesterday, the hards wear on the left side like mad. So, no surprise to see at least somebody to the pits this early, but we have a move. Lunge down the inside. Penguin, very ambitious. Contact with the Alpine, but they stay alive. The Alpine of Netsky having to back off and concede the place. He uses ERS in the process to try and catch back up to the Ferrari, but day late, dollar short there for Netsky.
Shorts.
Oh, we have F1 Shorts and Leon. Wow. It's a battle I didn't expect. F1 Shorts sliding, but ahead still.
That's a lovely little battle into turn one.
These hard tires. I was just going to say, he needs the rain to hit quick. He said I'd be great in the rain, but will he be better than Luke Range when it comes? 1.6 to deficit there. You got to find a way to manage these hard tires to at least the rain. DRS enabled there this time. Remember, Invade, it's a double detection point, so he'll get DRS here. Not only down to turn 1, but down to turn 2 as well. That's what this detection point does, just like Mexico and Canada.
Surely he'll get it, maybe even before turn 1. And he will. He will get it before turn 1.
Well, that's what I was just saying. Double detection point. If you have it at the entering the final corner, you'll have it down to turn 2 no matter the order. Netsky ahead of Timbed because Timbed is in for mediums. So this is the second driver who's done this, thinking they can't get to the end on hards. And we're migrating host as well. Luke Range, the leader!
I'll get him back in.
Oh no! Heartbreak for Luke. When he was leading a race in Formula Endurance last game, he had this happen in Spain, and he also had track limit penalties in the Texas race, costing him a win, and potentially a costing moment of what could be the win for him. Polo God inside of Luke's car, and now through to the lead. On lap 21, Polo God ahead. But definitely a heartbreaking sense for Luke.
Hopefully the rain can help him come back, and hopefully he joins quick enough so he can still be in DRS.
Yeah, I know. I don't want to see Luke end up not being in a shout of victory at all. DRS still for him, even though he's behind. F1 Shorts now behind Wooda, who's ahead. Little moment there, I think, from Wooda. No, the gaps are glitched because of Luke not being in here, that's why.
Yeah. Titanman's just holding on to DRS on Alex. He's going to get close, obviously, the double detection point of it, as you said. He's going to stay within it for just now, but he might lose it for this lap.
Goatley, I think, jinxing Luke. Goatley not here, the full-time Red Bull driver, along with Foles. Saying in the Twitch chat, I told Luke he'd win, but now it definitely seems out of reach. Unless something happens with him getting back in this session and the rain. I'm going to check if Luke needs another invite. He's not said anything in the driver's chat, but super unfortunate for Luke.
And I'm sure Jack in his party will be trying to invite him as well.
Jack also, as well as Cryptic, both spectating.
Yes.
I just have to say this as well. Dream scenario for Polo, Invade. He was losing out big time before this rain comes, and it's getting a lot cloudier on this circuit right now.
Look at this. Danny and Len have both dropped Penguin by 3 seconds here.
I just wonder, though. I just wonder, though, if Polo somehow gets it wrong by a lap, do these guys have a chance maybe for a podium, and especially if Luke does not join back in time?
I do agree. Both of them
oh, power cut for Luke. That's clarification from Jack. Power cut for Luke.
Oh, that's painful.
It's not just a disconnect, it's a power cut. Timbed setting fast laps while his teammate is pressurizing the back of Danny. He wants to find a way through. The question is, can he find a way through?
Timbed also set the fastest lap. during the time where Lennon was closing up on Danny.
I know Polo's going to feel bad for Luke because he would have wanted to properly fight him for it, but that's no longer the case. What Polo needs to do is keep his head in this race. Remember the big picture. Remember that if you win tonight, 16 points the gap in the championship, but also remember that it'd be your first win since the end of F1 2021 and the first in F1 cars. It would be quite the day for him, but he needs to also focus on a way for McLaren to get a 1-2 and help themselves in the constructors. It's not just about the drivers' championship. It's about the constructors. And McLaren can find a way to win it quite early if they continue the pace they're at. Danny on the back of Titan Man, as you previously mentioned. Danny boosting and breezing by the Sauber. No ease, no contest through. But will Lennon also find a way through in the Sauber as well? Right now, the answer is no. But he could try and attack into turn 2 because Titan Man was left in the dust without DRS. Lennon got it. Inside, outside, which way is he choosing? Inside line, he's picking. A little bit of touching there, but Lennon cuts in front and gets past. So, he's ahead, and the yellow flags for their behind were for Leon Minor.
Next up is Alex Norris. Alex Norris is an academy teammate of Danny, so hopefully he might move out the way, but who knows because he is on loan.
Yeah, he could choose to go the rogue option, or he could choose to go the other way with it. There's two different options here for Alex Norris in this fight, but you know what I think, honestly? Podium spot wide open now. Tim Bed clears Netsky for 9th, but I want to mention this before it goes out of reach. Because the power cut Luke had, Jake Bandy is going to make this a McLaren 1-2 on the circuit, and if this race were to finish, it'd stay that way. But also, remember, there's some still yet to pit. And Alex Norris is one of those. If he gets by Luke, he's currently in the podium spot, and Jake Bandy does find a way through.
The interesting thing about Jake Bandy is Alex Norris is actually catching him right now.
I'll have you take it away for 5th place now.
And Lennon did overtake Danny down the inside. And they are now into DRS of Alex Norris. Who, yes, he's catching Jake Bandy, he's also being caught from behind, so he needs to make sure he doesn't lose enough time to enough time to Jake while he's being overtaken by Danny and Lennon.
8.7 the gap. That gap is coming down. Does Polo have an issue, I wonder? What is going on for this gap to come down? The Titan Man with the penalty. That's vital there. That's going to bite him very much.
He's having a brilliant race as well. P7 in the Sauber. Now with that penalty, he will be under pressure from Timbed and Penguin.
Lagrange being demoted quite a few places. Alex Norris promoted to the podium, but yet to pit. FX7 Danny also finds a way past as well. 9 seconds the gap. I just wonder, when is that rain coming? Overcast skies over the circuit. Lennon through for 3rd.
Danny.
He got through as well. Very crucial for him to keep up with Lennon and fight for what could be the podium place. But also keep in mind, because of Jake Bandy's tires wearing like it is, it could also be 2nd place as well.
This is definitely going to be a battle for 2nd, and I do believe Alex Norris has got the pace to actually keep up with them for maybe 1 or 2 laps. I don't think he'll stay with them the whole time, but maybe 1 or 2 laps he'll be with them.
Rain is hit. Rain has hit the circuit. Here we go. Who will pit for the Inters? And I just heard on Polo's communications, there it is.
Polo has to get this right, or he could be the biggest loser, because he's got no one around him to actually, show for him. And Leon's going to be the first one to try the Inters.
This is good for him because, honestly, there's one person he could jump, and if there's a safety car, he could be in position for points. Polo stays out. I don't know about that because this track is going to get extremely wet. Someone's got to pit this lap, and no one in that top 4 spots are. I know, but yesterday's tier 2 race, tier 3 race, excuse me, it got wet quite quickly, and that was the difference. Jake Bandy trying to defend the place. Lennon attacking and ahead. Danny trying to get Danny trying to get ahead and make sure Jake Bandy loses 2 spots in one go, and that does happen. These conditions are going to be so tricky. When we get back to the pits this time, Penguin is in, and I think he needed that more than anybody.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I'm really hoping he's preparing that wing, and he is.
And Netsky joins him. Woda joins him as well. F1 Shorts also in as well. This track is getting a lot more wet on it. You could definitely tell. This might be the lap. If it's not this one, it's next one. No doubt about it.
There's no puddles on the track.
But even then, I stayed out. Yeah, I know. But yeah, look at this. Now it is. Look at where Polo's at.
This came at a perfect time.
And they're suggesting they go to inners, I think, on the radio. I believe I could hear it. 8.5 the gap. Has he timed this perfect? Just like one of his races he won in one of the leagues I commentated. URS Silverstone. He stayed out and waited for the wet weather. He's done it again. Polo is in. 8.2 that gap, and others join him. Danny stays out. Interesting call there.
Why? Why would you stay out?
Jake Bandy almost hit the pit wall. You gotta get it low down here. Luke Range's AI car does not pit him. The Titan Man is in.
This is actually so sad for Danny.
Yeah, he had a podium in reach, but now that's probably gone. Double stack there from the McLaren team, so Jake Bandy is at a huge disadvantage. Polo out of the pit lane, and look at where the next car is. Lennon only exiting now.
Look at this. Alex Norris is in a P3 after everyone's boxed.
P3, yeah. You're right. F1 Short saying, can he retire? He has a huge headache. Invade, you might be able to clarify.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's a physical.
As long as you give a reason, you know, and that's a valid reason, I think. Cookie didn't feel well in Japan.
He got a warning.
And it's not right. He won't. F1 Shorts won't get more than a warning. But the thing is that Cookie was actually sick beforehand in Japan last week, and he didn't tell anybody before the race. Yeah. So that's why he got the warning compared to something like F1 Shorts having that happen. I'm just riding on board with Luke Range's AI car. Look at the time that's being lost here. Danny is going to lose out huge. Look at him struggling with the rear. So unhappy there. He's not only going to forfeit a potential podium, he might forfeit a potential top 5 because of this.
This is so sad for Danny because he's had so much pace this race. Oh my!
Oh, he almost hit the pit wall as well. Trying to get it low down, tiptoeing to the pits, sliding the rear. This is just heartbreaking. Lennon through for third. What's going to be second?
Behind Titan Man here.
Luke Range's AI car pits. Inners for Danny. No surprise there. Look at the gap out in front. Similar to Imola. 7 seconds. One bad moment for Polo could mean Lennon breaks that drought. Alex Norris never had a podium in Tier 2. He came up shy just a few times when he was racing full-time back earlier this year when the year started in the Alpine Academy. And he's currently trying to get his first over the guy who's in the Alpine Academy in 4th, Jake Bandy. I think the double stack really made him lose out big time.
Yeah, but he had to do it or he would
100%.
Be screwed
like Danny is. Yeah. Yeah. The only situation he could have done is pit a lap earlier, but even then, you just don't know.
You really don't, because Penguin boxed lap earlier and the gap stayed the same to Titan Man, really.
That's true. And the Titan Man, although he has that penalty, he still could be finishing 6th place in this race. Huge result there.
That would definitely be big points for Sauber as well.
Alpine have a car in the points. They desperately need that as well. Lennon would be on the podium and breaking quite a drought, I believe, in between 2nd place finishes. But I believe he's had one. He had one last season, I want to say.
And Alex Norris is looking at a podium. The future Tier 2 driver for the Haas team for next season. The current Tier 3 driver. This is a very, very, very nice result from Alex Norris saying he had quali ban.
Yeah, Lennon had a 2nd place finish in Imola last season. I thought it was 3rd for a moment, but I got clarity there very quickly. 3.2 the gap between Lennon and Alex Norris. 5 drivers with the penalties, and I just want to remind folks, for those not aware, maybe watching RPL for the first time, it is a realistic performance league, and of course, we have academies, and McLaren, the fastest car, and right now, a McLaren, on for their 12th straight podium, but more importantly, a driver trying to win their first race. He has won in F2 prior, but he's never won with F1 cars. Could tonight be the night? He's got 5 laps to go next time, an 8-second buffer. If he bottles this, that would be horrifying.
It'll be gutting if he does. Um, Danny's caught
Finally.
up to Jake Bandy, and Luke does join, but too little too
Damage is
late.
done. Yeah, the damage is done. He still could be on for a P9 finish. Red Bull need to salvage some sort of points in their battle with Ferrari and also to keep 4th place, but yeah, Luke Range's chance for a potential win, maybe even a podium, done.
I was really gutting for Luke because he definitely seemed like the quickest, especially in the dry. So this is going to hurt, but especially in the constructors
shoulda,
as well,
woulda,
as you
they say.
said.
Yeah, definitely what could have been. No doubt about it. 9/10 the gap between Bandy and Alex Norris. That's the closest battle on this circuit. And remember, no DRS enabled. Luke has left the session again when he tried to take control. Oh, that's brutal.
Gutting.
Yeah.
Neski's going to overtake him now.
How about you do us a favor quickly while we got really not much happening on track? Remind us of the upcoming races this weekend, if you can.
Yeah, just let me get the calendar quickly. We have F2 tomorrow. That is around Hungary as well. And we also have Tier 1 this week. That is at Imola, which is also tomorrow.
Next week's Tier 3 race will be in Monza, and next week's Tier 2 race will be in Canada. I think some of these guys are, for their constructor's sake, Aston Martin needed to gain points, Mercedes needed to gain points, setting themselves up quite well for the upcoming races that we have. Canada, Mexico, Vegas. I guess you could say that's the US stretch in a way.
Yeah, definitely. And hopefully it'll provide a lot of entertainment, as those tracks are actually quite fun.
Lennon, not a guaranteed podium just yet. Remember, 1.8 the gap between Alex Norris. I believe, if my math is correct, it was just 3 seconds a few laps ago. Cryptic lagging out of the session as he tries to invite Luke Grange back, but with Luke Grange not coming back to the session right now, Netsky's looking to take over P9, and this would be their best result of the season for Alpine.
Something interesting here. Danny's got the 1 lap fresher tyres, and he's not really catching Jake Bandy a lot. Jake Bandy's not really catching Aston Martin either, but the Aston Martin's majorly catching Lennon.
Just almost monsoon conditions with the way this rain is coming down now. This track is fully wet, and you would think some night lights would start coming on or something like that too. Netsky passing Luke Grange for 9th. 11 seconds away from Tim Bed, fellow Tier 3 driver.
1.2 is the gap between Lennon and Alex Norris. 1.1 now.
4 stops for Hyper, 2 stops for some of the drivers who pitted from the start. Up 2 from Netsky, up 13 for Alex Norris, up 7 for Lennon from the start of this race. I think Alex Norris, Lennon, Polo, maybe Titan Man as well. 3 drivers definitely putting themselves in the driver of the day conversation, and even for later on in the week, the best driver of the tier this weekend conversation.
Definitely. I from the looks of it, I'd definitely give it to Alex Norris right now. I mean, Qualiban to looking like a podium at the moment. Possible P2.
I'm going to have you for a moment while I quickly do something, take over this battle for 2nd place. It's a Mercedes Academy 2-3.
No
Technically, not fully Mercedes Academy.
Now here we are, we have Alex Norris, 7 tenths is now the gap. He has gained 5 tenths in that first sector. He is closing the gap on his academy teammate, but he's on loan, so he doesn't have to oblige to team orders here. He's pulling away from Jake Bandy. The gap is now 1.5. Alex Norris could put Lennon under pressure, maybe get Lennon a penalty from just putting him under pressure like that, or he could either send it and get the overtake done in the Aston Martin. Obviously Qualiban to P3, as he only got into the lineups about 5-10 minutes before the race started, so very nice work from Alex.
Absolutely.
being right behind Lennon, and the gap was flirting around 6 tenths here. He's pushing for this.
2 laps to go. Polo still having a chance to win the race and extending that gap for good measure. 8.3 the gap. And just a reminder, I'm sure Polo will love this news. Safety car window cut off.
Now this is interesting. The weather seems exactly like it was in Tier 3 yesterday, and from what I noticed, nobody could overtake in this weather, so this might compromise Alex Norris, and he might not actually get the overtake just because of the weather and how little grip there is. As you can see, Lennon losing the rear there, and Alex also.
But the interesting thing, Invade, if you don't mind me cutting in,
the
interesting thing about that is that if Lennon makes an error, advantage to Alex Norris, and it could easily allow him through. But also, if he's got so much more pace, he might just find a way past.
Maybe. He's got a lot of VRS. Obviously, Lennon does
Just
as well.
want to clarify one thing as well. I said Polo earlier on was a 3-time Tier 1 podium sitter. I was wrong. It was this circuit in Tier 1 where his first podium came. He's an OG of this league. Entered here in F1 2019. And right now, he starts the final lap.
This is a real standout performance from Polo today. Obviously, he didn't have the overall pace the whole race. He definitely wasn't the quickest, but he's benefited from others' misfortunes today, and he's proven to Jack and McLaren that he can be that #1 driver.
If needed, yeah. Second place is up for grabs. Alex Norris cannot get through. He'll try it a long way around and try and put Lennon offline. Penguin and Titan Man are still battling for 6th place there, back there as well. LaGrange might have joined back this session to try and get Netsky for 9th. But Alex Norris, right on the back of Lennon, trying to find a way past. We'll switch back to this battle after we call Polo through to the line. It was this circuit that he had his first Tier 1 podium at, and it also was back around that time, just a little bit after, that he finished 2nd in the championship to Luke and Reese. He's also finished 2nd anytime he's entered in F1 cars in RPL. He's been an F2 winner of the past. That drought is 3 years long since he's last won. And in fact, around that same time he got that podium, I was engineering him, waiting to call this on comms now. I can finally say in F1 cars for the first time, and since 3 years of waiting, that drought's no longer. Polo God is a race winner in Tier 2 finally. He gets it done in the Hungary with a dominant victory. His first of the season, his first in F1 cars, his first in 3 years. Lennon for 2nd. Good result there. Alex Norris with his first Tier 2 podium and a photo finish, a drag race to the line. 2 Academy teammates dish it out. Although Titan Man lost out on track and on penalties, he only lost out by 41 thousandths on track. Jake Bandy, his best Tier 2 result. Danny recovered for 5th. Timbed 8th. Netsky and Luke will be the final points runners. But Polo God finally has risen to the occasion. It's his moment. It's in Hungary.
Very well driven from Polo. He commanded that race, and he's finally got that win that he worked so hard for. Very big congratulations to Polo.
Leon Miner will be the last car across the line. Luke Range done in P10. Very heartbreaking day there. Polo, a real OG of this league, and we talked about Gecko as well back a few weeks ago in Tier 1. Another drought has been broken, but also another OG back to the top in RPL. Polo God is a race winner once again for the first time in 958 days. No more 2nd place in this tier. I think that's a win that the whole paddock is going to be happy about. Because this guy has put quite a bit in this league, whether it was Zatsy under owner, Luke under owner, Jack under owner. He's a recognizable name throughout all of the game cycles in this league. And although he's not Tier 1 pace anymore, he's Tier 2, and he's the top of it.
Fair play, Polo.
An Irishman not named Owen winning the race. And speaking of Owen, here's 3 cars he's driven for. McLaren, Mercedes, and Aston, all on the podium. Alex Norris. That's my driver of the day if I'm not giving it to Polo. I must say, Tier 2 driver next season, Aston tonight on the podium. His best Tier 2 result. Polo gets to spray the champagne and, well, we're talking about the bottle he's spraying that's not being a different type of bottle for the first time in quite a bit. You know, here are your full results. Fastest lap for Timbed, Alex Norris from P16, Lennon from P9, Polo from Pole. Some great results back there with the Sauber, the Alpine, but obviously some disappointing one as well. 2 DNFs. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, very, very interesting race. Personally, my driver of the day would be Alex Norris. I don't know
Agreed.
about you. Yeah.
I agree. I don't want to give any bias to Polo, but I would give him my second option. We've not seen a dominant winner in Tier 2 in quite a bit, so I do have to make sure that's noted. If it's not Alex Norris getting driver of the weekend in Tier 2, it'll probably be Polo. And I just want to add on a bit. You know, back in 2020, 2021, I didn't know what RPL was, but I did because of Polo. And he introduced me to this league as well and got me in it. He was also a TP with Owen back in the day on F1 2021 when it was F2 in Season 12. I had raced with him as a teammate. He's been a good friend of mine for what's going to be 5 years at the end of this year. And I'd waited to commentate this moment for a while. I've not got to commentate a win of his. And I don't know about ever. I've watched him win as an engineer. I've watched him win while driving. I've watched it all happen, but not got to commentate on the moment. And I think it's truly special for Polo to finally break through and get that illustrious win that he's been waiting for.
Very, very well deserved. Also, congrats to the other 2 on the podium, Alex Norris and Lennon.
Great days for them.
On the
Much
podium.
needed.
Behind Polo again for the 2nd week in a row, though.
Yeah, he's just waiting for his chance to pounce, you know? But Alex Norris, I can't put my eyes away from that. He's going to be a phenomenal driver in the Haas next season, and also that gives him so much confidence for the rest of the Tier 3 season, no doubt about it. Jake Bandy as well, P4, just shy of his first Tier 2 podium.
Definitely. I mean, Jake Bandy, he recovered well after the contact that he had on lap 1, but, you know, he did very well. Top 5 is amazing for him.
Yeah, if it weren't for the double stack, he would have been fighting there for P2 or P3, but he deserves a big shout because he was in that fight today, and he helped McLaren immensely in the constructors, which they definitely needed when they weren't even looking at both cars racing tonight. They're only looking at one on the grid. Titan Man, another shout out for him. His first point of the season, I believe, as well. Netsky, a reserve, a Tier 3 driver, pulling in last moment, doing a wonderful job in the Alpine. They need that as well, as we mentioned. Williams still without a point, but into Canada, you definitely got to think if one of them's racing, they can probably capitalize on track limits or the chaos that we will have ensuing next week for sure. I can't wait for next week's race because you know what? We've had our last non-3 winners, of George, all first-time winners. And you know what? I feel like we're going to see that even more happen, whether it's this tier or any other tier.
Definitely, I agree with you.
We've been on quite a hit recently when it came to first-time winners. We had Egg in Tier 1, Jake Bandy in Tier 3, Tier 2 last week with Penguin. And I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon. There's definitely more to mention from the start of these new seasons, but those are just some of the ones more recently in the last 10 days. So, folks, that was RPL Season 15, Tier 2 in Hungary for Round 5, and F2 in Hungary tomorrow to finish up the weekend of racing around the Hungaroring. F1 at Imola to end off the weekend. Next week, we have Tier 3 action in Monza and Tier 2 in Canada for the second half of the season. Invade, any final thoughts on today's event before we sign off?
That was a very interesting race, to be fair. A lot of entertainment, not much chaos, actually. I would have thought there would have been more chaos, but, you know, it is what it is, and that race was quite enjoyable for everyone involved.
Yeah, no safety cars as well. It's always nice to see that. I think we didn't see that in Austria last week, if I'm correct as well. So maybe we have a streak going. I don't know. Canada could very well end. The walls are too close. Anyway, speaking of Canada, that's our next race for Tier 2, and 2 more races to end off the weekend with F2 in Hungary, F1 at Imola. We hope you join us for those. Either way, Ryan Searles, the play-by-play commentator, and RSF1 Invade, our co-com from tonight, signing off. We will see you tomorrow and next week for Tier 2 action. Until then, have a good night, folks. Have a good one, folks, and goodbye.